This is Off Track.
It's early.
Long time no see, James. How you doing, pal?
I haven't seen you in hours. I'm doing well.
I haven't seen you in hours.
I got a nice sleep last night, a nice properly lengthed sleep last night, thanks to you.
No problem. I didn't. No fault of anyone's. I just consumed so much caffeine on a Sunday that I just can't sleep.
So is that like just your typical race day like caffeine boost, or did you take extra caffeine because you were flying home after a race?
Yes. Both.
Got it.
I think a banana might be the worst thing to eat while recording a podcast, just in terms of the sound. For you, I'm
almost done. It's breakfast time, guys. We're doing this on Monday morning, which we don't normally do. We haven't even done it
Monday
Tuesday
morning at 9 a.m. Yeah, we're doing it Monday morning at 9 a.m. after a race weekend because we care that much about you. And we were actually, James and I were talking about this on the way to the airport yesterday, Sunday, after the event. And we are still so blown away and also appreciative of all you who listen to this show, because it is now everyone that I come across at the track, every single one of you mentioned the show and how much you despise Tim. So, it's just a win on all fronts for really all of us, and it's great.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Maybe not all of us.
I get
no,
Tim. Also,
I'll admit, back, so.
I'll admit, I get the odd person asking like if you're here.
Me too. Just so they can find you and make fun of you.
Well, a lot of them want like the picture trifecta, right? A lot of them want a picture with all three of us to say they've done it, which is greatly appreciated. My usual response is thank God no, but they do ask. They do ask. It's not that they care, but they do ask.
Okay. So you had a big weekend, Tim. You ran a race for really no reason. Do you want to talk about that?
I mean, same could be said of you, pal.
I get paid to do the race. You did it out of just, I don't know.
Did you at least raise money for some worthy cause or something?
No.
I sure didn't. I spent, I thought about it, like the amount that I spent to get here and then also like pay the registration.
Let's break that down. So, I mean, obviously we're talking about the Indy mini marathon. It's a half marathon here in Indianapolis. Let's from the day you decided to do this.
At least $1,000 because
I don't know if it's at least,
here.
but it's got to be close.
Let's talk about the pure financial commitment. Never mind the emotional and physical commitment.
Yeah, I mean the registration, and then I bought all the pre stuff. Like I got the pre photo package thing, which I don't know how to get. I got like I paid to get my medal engraved with my name and my time beforehand, but I didn't find where to do that.
But for sure, you spent like $185 on shoes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
for sure you spent $500 on flights.
Probably.
Okay.
No, probably less than that. I booked it in advance.
I'll pass. I'll give him a pass on the flight because he comes to Indy in May.
But
anyway.
He's coming back.
Oh, right. He's going
true.
home.
That's
yeah,
true.
you're right.
I'm
He's got to go home
tomorrow.
Yeah, no, this was just for this. No, that was okay. Huh? Yeah,
I stayed with family, right? So I didn't have to pay for lodging.
You're in this okay.
Maybe a little less, but
what about all of the beers you consumed yesterday to replace the calories you burned?
That was courtesy of our good friend Deepu.
Oh, nice.
Deepu got his credit card out?
I went and watched the race with Bischoff and Deepu, and so that part.
Let me guess.
No, there were Ubers there.
Started with Coach.
We did not go to Coach's. We went to Bischoff's place.
Oh,
wow! It's funny because I was actively texting with them. I was actually actively texting with Bish and Deepu the entire race. Never once mentioned you were there.
Yeah, we were talking about because we really want to know why Jack Harvey is called DJ. Because that was just,
I also don't know that, but I do love that Nolan threw that out there, and we will now investigate that.
Are you sure that Nolan didn't get Jack confused with actual DJ?
No. That's what I thought happened. So when Jack was doing his grid walk, he found Nolan. Nolan just put his helmet on, and they did a quick interview. And he goes, "Hey, what's up, DJ?" And in that moment, I was like, "Oh no, that's so bad." You thought it was DJ
Clark? Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jack kind of looks at the camera. He's like, Luckily, nobody knows why that's my nickname, and kind of keeps going. And so everyone was like,
which
immediately
made
like,
it
okay,
way
well,
worse.
now we need to, you've totally just opened Pandora's box there, pal. We will be finding out, and we will be broadcasting it on this show, which we now know is listened to by a lot of people.
So I do want to touch on the off-track listeners, because there was some funny things that happened during the mini.
Phrasing. Please don't. I mean, we're gonna get you in a lot of trouble if you start touching on the off-track listeners.
That's fair. Not without consent, obviously. There was somebody before the race who recognized me from the podcast, and that was cool. And then as I was running up Main Street and Speedway, somebody goes, "Hey, it's Tim Durham," and I was like, "That's awesome!" Like somebody from off track is recognizing me running. At the end of it, people were like, "Come on, Tim, you got this!" And I'm thinking, man, a lot of people recognize off track, not realizing that I had a piece of paper with my name on it. Yeah,
right there.
Like they were just being supportive because they could tell I needed it. That was just strangers helping strangers because I looked like I was about to die.
Like, that was just the last mile support system.
Yeah, and I needed it.
What was your pace?
I went in thinking that like I just wanted to go faster than 12-minute miles.
Okay.
And I did 11:55-minute miles.
Oh, wow. So were you like, do you have one of those apps that was like giving you speed updates, or was that just like
my reverse or whatever, my trend is terrible. Right. Because it was like I started at like 10:40, then 10:45, then 11:15, then 11:50. Like I fell off right on the north chute of the track. I fell off hard.
Right after you sent us a text message with a picture of you running across the bricks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you stop running at any point and walk, or did you stay?
No, I got very
momentum?
close.
Okay.
Forward momentum the whole time. I did think I might throw up at one point and didn't. So that I almost did, but no, stayed. I was getting passed by people who were like pushing other people. Because they have this program where if people can't run it, they're like in their running wheelchairs or whatever, and a volunteer will push them the length of the course. And I was passed by one of those guys, which was not great.
I'm sorry. You did it. I didn't. I'm not gonna
I picked my pace back up after that happened. I was like,
yeah,
that's
a nice motivator. That's a nice shot. Oh,
so, would you ever do something like this again?
Right after I finished, I said never again. And then like 2 days out, I was like, yeah, maybe.
It's like
it's like doing Daytona.
Yeah. It could be a fun tradition, right? Like I have a very easily beatable PR. You know?
You got a goal. You got a benchmark now. Tim, if it's a free weekend next year and you do it, I will do it with you.
How about we both do it? I don't want to do it with you. That was the mistake. I ran with my brother, and he was like a much faster pace than I was. So that's where I think I hit that wall.
Oh, you tried to keep up at the beginning. I did that once. We did the turkey trot, which is just like a 5K on Thanksgiving morning.
Yeah.
But I did it with Dixon, and this was when I was younger and I wasn't as big a runner. Not that I would be able to keep up with him even in my running prime, but I was like trying to keep up with Dixon for the first like 2K, and that was a big mistake. K3 and 4 were not fun.
I kept up with him for the first 8 miles, which is why the last 5 miles were terrible.
Yeah. Well, good. Congratulations, buddy. That's actually a huge deal. What did
I'm going to wear the hell out of this hoodie, by the way.
As you should. You burned 2,200 calories or something during the run?
Yeah. 2,240.
So what was your go-to replacement meal?
Margaritas. They hit hard.
I love your health and fitness journey you're on. It's really inspiring for all of us. You know, running for no reason and just
months of training,
replacing it with alcohol and sugar.
Boom. Boom.
Look, here's the way I look at it.
For sponsoring that.
I was going to have those margaritas either way. So, like, at least I balanced it out.
You were a couple days early, though. Today's Cinco de Mayo.
That's true. I'm also going to have those today. What are we doing later, James?
I don't know. We should probably go find somewhere I guess this is the worst day to go try to find somewhere to have tacos. So we're probably not going to do that. Oh, maybe I get Becky to make her salmon tacos. She makes bomb salmon tacos.
I'll be there.
Anyway, congrats. That was good. Speaking of food, I have a little grinds my gears thing here. Do you ever, Alex? Do you ever buy soup from like not canned soup, like from Whole Foods or whatever? Aisle. Yeah.
I mean, I have. I don't make a habit out of it. It's a desperation play. If like I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big soup
situation
guy
where-
in general, but I do like having one of those on deck for like an emergency last minute lunch or something. If I'm like
keep
in
it,
between,
like refrigerated.
Yeah.
That's a
so I'll
bad
check in
idea,
the
bro.
fridge. Why?
Well, because that's not meant to be stored. It's got
No.
like,
For like a week. Like I do one a week. I do one a week.
Still, that's pushing it, but okay.
Whatever. So do you remember how like, so they were in like the plastic jars, but then they've got like the plastic seal on the top.
Yeah.
It's sort of like how like a yogurt thing would have like
Yes.
the foil, right?
Yes.
But it's this plastic seal and it's unrippable. The lip that they give you to pull on it is too small. The glue is too strong. The structural integrity of the plastic jar is weak. So as you try to, you're like pinching it as hard as you can with this tiny little lip. And then as you try to pull it back, the thing's just folding in and you cannot actually rip
Infuriating.
the plastic off. You have to get like a knife out and stab the plastic and rip it off. And it's a mess every time. And I'm so mad at whoever invented these things. You clearly don't have the same problem.
100% with you, James.
Okay.
No, I've never done that. When I thought you were talking about the hot soup that goes in the paper cups. With the lids.
No. I'm not keeping that in my fridge for a
Right.
week.
That's why I was like, you are a psychopath. No. So I've never bought plastic soup.
I'm going to buy you a plastic soup thing because I just want to see your level. Your particular brand of frustration would be extra entertaining while trying to open one of these things. It would just
Nothing but patience.
I'm laughing too hard at that. I'm sorry.
No, I think you were laughing the appropriate amount.
It's rude.
I think that was fair.
Oh, guys, I am in a weird mood right now. I'm in a way too laughy mood for this time in the morning. So I had a very nice flight home, which we'll talk about in a sec. My flight out to Barber, you know how we always talk about the early morning flights and people leaving the shades open? This was happening, and when I noticed it was happening, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I looked over, and this guy is passed out, face smeared up against the window with the sun just beaming like straight in. I'm like,
Definitely
how is that
hungover.
guy even asleep?
Definitely
Yeah, that guy he was in bad shape, man. But I was like, I can't even be mad at him. Like he's literally getting like a sunburn on his face from this flight.
So I went down to Charlotte on Wednesday to get in the sim before Barber. I was on 4:30 a.m. or no, I woke up at 4:30. I was on a 6 a.m. flight, and I was supposed to just be in the sim for the morning and a little bit of the afternoon and be on a 2:30 flight home. Had some stuff to do in Indy, and then was going to fly my plane down with Ed Thursday early afternoon sort of thing. So get an extra, 18, 20 hours at home. And so I board the plane in Charlotte and we push back, and Charlotte is a very busy airport these days, especially in kind of the afternoon hours. And so it was like a 58-minute flight time, but ultimately like the slot they had booked from like your departure to arrival time was like an hour and 40 minutes. So clearly they're putting a big buffer in for kind of traffic on taxiways and just getting up in the air, right? And so we were on the taxiway for a while, and I wasn't bothered by it because like that was to be expected, and everything was fine, and they weren't saying anything over the PA system, and my window shade was down, and I was just watching a show and whatever. And then like it was about 50 minutes had gone by, and I was like, we should be pretty much like number one, number two in line to take off here. And I open the window and I look, and we are next to the taxiway, and there's a line of like 6 planes that is just kind of shuttling in front of us. And I'm like, okay, we're in one of those super small like regional jets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, we probably are getting boned. Like it's size prejudice here, right? We're probably getting boned because they're trying to get the bigger planes out, and they'll get to us when we can, right? So I let it go, and another 20 minutes goes by. Still nothing on the intercom, and I'm like, okay, like now we're going to be late. Like, okay, 5-10 minutes late, but like it's weird that no one's saying anything. And kind of let it go. Another 20 minutes goes by. Still no one's saying anything. And planes are just going by. And then all of a sudden, I look to my left and there's no planes. And I'm like, all right, well, surely now it's our time. Still didn't move. The next movement the plane made was turning around.
Good.
And going back to the gate.
Good.
Still nothing on the radio or like nothing on the intercom. And I'm like, this is really strange. And so finally, like people are I mean, it's a tiny plane. So people in row like 15, you can hear. And people are starting to like kind of get frustrated and antsy or whatever. And so the flight attendant, I'm sitting like the left side is only the single seat and I'm in like row 3. So I'm like 4 feet from the flight attendant. So she picks up the phone and calls the cockpit and is like, hey, like people are getting restless or whatever. So finally the captain comes on and is like, hey guys, sorry. We had an APU issue that we were trying to get reset. And maintenance wants us to be safe. APU is auxiliary power unit. It's the little engine in the back that controls all of the auxiliary stuff. So it's not like super essential for flight, but like you want it. I mean,
Dude, they won't fly with the toilet not working. If the APU isn't working, they ain't going
Well, they can, but anyways.
Right.
So they didn't. And so we go back and they're like, no information. They're just like, get off the plane and someone will update you. And I'm like, that's pretty customer service. Like,
right.
I understand there's maintenance failures. I understand there's things that happen. You got to keep people a little bit more informed of that and not just get off the plane and someone will talk to you. So anyways, we stand around the gate for a little bit and there's nothing. Finally, they're like, go to gate E15. There's a new plane. Cool. So at this point, we were only back in the terminal for like 30 minutes, even though we're now like an hour and a half delayed, but we're reboarding, and it was a fairly fast turnaround for getting a new aircraft. So not a big deal. Get on it and push back. And again, dealing with like a lot of traffic and all that sort of thing. So the same sort of thing happens. And we're sitting on the taxiway for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, all right, like to be expected, watching my show again. Then we're getting to the 50-minute mark again. Still nothing from the pilots. So nothing.
And I'm running out of shows here.
Right. And the next move the plane makes is turning around. And they're like, so this plane has an APU fault, so we have to go back to the gate. And now people are pissed. Oh, yeah. So at this point, it's the same crew. And I'm like, there's no way. I think
they got to clock out soon.
No, I just think this crew sucks, right? So anyways, we go back to the gate. And I'm like, at this point, I would be getting into Indy at 10 o'clock. And I'm like, this is dumb. So I get off. I go to the gate agent. I'm like, cancel my ticket. I'll figure it out. I'll go to Barber tomorrow. I'm going to stay a night, have a nice meal, get a full night's rest, all this sort of thing. So I'll pause on my future travel adventure after I tell this story. So I'm naturally curious, flying airplanes and all this sort of thing. So I want to keep track of when this plane, actually got to where it's supposed to go. Anyways, it was midnight after 2 missed approaches. And it was no bad weather. So I truly think these pilots were completely inept. Not only did they go through 2 airplanes, Tim, you're muted. Not only did they go through 2 airplanes in order to get off the ground the first time, they couldn't get on the ground after 2 attempts at landing. So probably a good thing I wasn't on it. I can't imagine the passengers and the frustration they would have had when they were on their third
the first one,
land.
and then then after the second time, when you just feel the guy just hammer the throttle back down and like take off again, you're like, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Oh.
So my day just went, and this is where I believe I had a lot of patience, because through all this, I was like, this is a minor inconvenience, but I don't mind. Like, what? Who cares? I'm going to get to where I need to go.
Let's say you hadn't switched off of that flight. How many failed landing attempts before you walk up and you're like, hey, I can do it?
No, that's how you get arrested. My engineer and Christian and some of the people were staying at a hotel by the sim. So I texted them and like, hey, let's go to dinner. I'm going to get a room. So I'm in the Uber, 25-minute Uber, back to where they are. Booking a room on the Marriott app. No problem. $150, all good. Get there. Go up to the front desk. I'm like, hand her my ID, checking in. She's like, oh, yeah, we don't have you in the system. I'm like, well, here's the confirmation. Here it is. It's me, and here I am. And she's like, "Oh, if you just booked it, yeah, we're having like a system issue, and we're actually in negative capacity, so I can't honor that booking. I'll refund it right now, but I don't have any rooms for you." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So I'm now homeless in Charlotte. So that was just my adventures getting to Barber. I thought I handled it with a lot of grace. I couldn't get to Birmingham, so I actually
Did
had
you
to fly
bunk
to
up with
Atlanta
Christian?
and drive
So where did you stay?
across the street.
Okay.
There's plenty of
Yeah.
hotels. Yeah.
That is just, dude. So flying down, I was on the same trajectory as Kevin Lee, and we had a stop in Atlanta, and then we were going to Birmingham, and we had a similar kind of thing. We pulled over on the taxiway leaving Indy, and we kind of sat there for a minute. I'm like, that's not great. And I was watching the time disappear. It was a pretty tight connection in Atlanta anyway. And they're like, I forget what problem they said they had. They're like, yeah, we had some problem, but we looked at it out there. Like we just
Should be
sat
fine.
there. It's fine. I'm like, I don't love that. I don't love that, but like, whatever. So we take off and like, we're doing the math in our head. We're like, we got to switch terminals. Like this isn't going to be good. So we're like texting each other on the plane. And we both had our Delta app up, and we're like, they're offering us another flight because we're not going to make like we can maybe make it if we sprint. Do we try? And we both was like, nah, pull the chute. And we did the in-flight adjustment to the next one. So that was kind of nice. And look, while we're talking travel, before we get into racing, my flight home. I want to talk about my flight home. I had a great trip home. It was not the best smelling trip I've had in the air. But it was so Alex and Ed were flying home and graciously agreed to let me hitchhike a ride back to get me home significantly sooner than I would have been otherwise. And there was some weather. I don't know like where that rates on your weather experience, Alex.
At the bottom. That was
At
not
the
weather.
bottom.
That was just some clouds.
Some clouds, but like there was some turbulence in the clouds.
Yeah, dude, there's no turbulence until your head is literally pounding the ceiling and the autopilot disconnects. So, no.
So that's happened,
Oh, yeah.
and that's okay with you?
It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There was a few like jostles in the back, back in steerage. That was some of the bigger like movements I have felt in a small aircraft. And like, I wasn't worried, like I was fine, but it was just like, oh yeah, like it's clouds and small aircraft. Like they don't love it.
Well, no. So that's why, so what we were flying through was green, and we've discussed the color scale, right?
Yes.
So
Purple bad.
I mean, moving a significant amount, right? But like completely within the threshold of the plane. Not
Right.
a problem.
Not a problem.
Then you've got yellow, which is like you're moving more, but still well within the threshold of the plane. Then you've got the specks of red where your head's going to hit the ceiling and the autopilot's going to disconnect. But still, as long as you are like at the maneuvering speed, and as long as it's not like solid red, it's just little flickers of red, again, you're fine. Okay. Purple, you
dead.
die.
Right.
So like if you think about the scale, like you were at a 1 out of 4.
Right.
So you can imagine why the 4 is so bad.
Right.
And why it rips wings off. Yeah.
Dude, I don't even want to. I would have nightmares even trying to imagine what red would be like based on that being green. Let's put it this way. I was very happy I had not cracked my Diet Coke that I had, because I would have been wearing it. And I would have owed you a
was
nice
not
cleaning
that
budget.
bad.
No. There was a couple that like it would have, like the Coke can would have hit the ceiling.
Oh, I
and-
thought you were saying the carbonation would have exploded.
No. If it was
okay.
an open can, it would have been everywhere.
For sure.
But I want to clarify. You're saying that if you had spilled the Diet Coke on his plane, you would have owed him for spilling rather than he would have owed you for the Diet Coke?
Yes, I would have, because
it's his flying.
But no, it wasn't. First of all, Ed was actually piloting.
Okay.
And
I was observing.
You were no. This leads to the next part of the story where you had a very active role in the descent. Alex, I would like you to explain to everybody after this, for me, a fairly choppy, bumpy ride home, and then there's like some, see, this is, okay. The previous, like, I don't want to say sketchiest, but like one of the like things I've been on my toes about in a smaller craft was with these two flying back. I think from Barber a couple years ago. When Alex pulled off like a crosswind landing, that was so impressive. Like, we came in at a 45-degree angle, and I'm like, okay, this is And the two of them are just like back and forth. They sound like they're so calm. I was so impressed at the communication, reading off this, that, and the other, whatever. Alex is just like raw dogging this thing down sideways into the airport, dude. So, and that was fine. So that was my previous benchmark. So now we've had some like turbulence, which for me was kind of turbulent. And then we're coming in and we're like, now we're landing in pure clouds. Let me also just preface this by saying an hour left in the flight. I'm listening to all this banter back and forth about the weather. And it's like, I don't think that the airport we're supposed to be landing at is going to be good enough. We should divert to the international airport. And there was this back and forth. And then the decision was made, okay, we're going to go to international. It's like, okay, we're taking the safe route. I'm just sitting in the back silent. I'm not asking questions. I'm just kind of listening and observing. And then we get 20 minutes down and there's some chatter back and forth. And apparently things have improved slightly at the other airports. We're like, no, you know what?
It's not so much they improved. It's that, so the weather reporting is, while it is accurate, it is still a automated device that is reporting passing clouds, right? So it's not, it's real, but it's also the reason why we decided to go back to the original airport was because two planes 5 minutes in front of us touched down and were actually able to cancel kind of their IFR clearance before they even got on the ground, which means they busted out of the kind of cloud layer before like the minimums, which meant it was more than good enough to get in. So it wasn't
right.
It was more that we would have still gone to the international airport had two other planes.
Those two planes
just
not,
in front
yes.
of us.
Yeah. So you had like immediate real time feedback
reports,
from someone that it's like when you go to Indy and your teammate goes out first at -2 and is like, it's fine. You can come in at -3 if you want. And then you go to -3 and go out. That's the racing equivalent of this. Now, but so in my head, I didn't know the details of that until after. So in my head, it's like, oh, the weather's not good at this one. We're going to go to, now the weather's good enough now. We're going to give it a whirl. So we had the original one. I'm like, okay. And we're flying through clouds and now we're coming down and we're just like, I'm looking out the window and I can see the wing almost, right? Like I can almost see all of the wing. And so they're coming down and then something is going on. I can tell something's not entirely right because Alex is like, I got it. I'm on it. And then like they're just back and forth and it's like, I'm like, nah. And then Ed says something and Alex is like, I got it. Just do that. And Alex is like, I got it. Fly the plane. This is on me. And they're like, and he's like pretty active and moving around. And I'm like, okay. Then we broke through the clouds and the landing was fine. But there was a moment there where I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm just looking down out of the window, like waiting for the ground to be right there. Anyway, got down totally fine. Alex, do you want to explain what happened that required you to get so involved in the landing?
So on an instrument approach, you've got lateral and vertical guidance. And there has been an off and on issue with the autopilot and capturing basically the vertical glide slope. So it's using GPS to vertically descend you and keep you at the correct descent rate and to keep you at the correct altitude above any towers or terrain or that sort of thing. That all was working in terms of the GPS and the plane was receiving the information for the lateral and vertical guidance. For some reason, the autopilot itself was not flying the vertical guidance. So the autopilot was tracking the center line of the runway and it was just fine, but it wasn't descending. So it had just basically leveled out at an altitude and it wasn't coming down. So the only thing that I was doing was I was just manually descending the plane myself, following the glide slope with my hands and eyes. So just adjusting the altitude to track the glide slope. So it was not a big deal. Ed could have also just disconnected the autopilot and hand flown the plane to the needles, which is the lateral and vertical guidance. So it wasn't as bad as it may have seemed, because where it would have been bad is if we weren't getting any glide slope indication in the first place. But we were getting exactly where we needed to be. It just wasn't doing it automatically.
Right.
So it was fine.
So in retrospect, James, do you Are you glad you were listening in to hear all this, or would you have preferred to have just landed in ignorance and not known that Alex was like, or would you have seen him doing something?
I'm still very conservative, so what we were doing was fine.
Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is always bliss. I like being blissful, but I'm also weirdly fascinated with the flying thing, and so I was happy to listen. And but yes, no, like I would have felt better if I didn't know what was happening. But I was fine. I'm a good passenger in those situations.
Anyways, race cars.
So back to, now that you've listened to 30 minutes of a travel podcast, let's talk racing. Barber, Alex, good job. That was a good day.
James.
That was a good day. I know that's that's kind of your tone about the whole thing, but
yeah. Listen, I don't really want to talk too much about my weekend itself because there's a lot of underlying things. The cliff notes are we had a test, and like most of my IndyCar career, anytime you have a good test, it usually means the race weekend's going to be.
Yeah.
And so we had we just were really chasing our tails all weekend. I think we easily should have been in the top 10 qualifying. I locked the front tire in turn 9 and missed the transfer by 600ths, and that's just the way it is in the series, and it was my mistake, and that's fine. So I was upset that I underperformed in qualifying. So that was motivation for me, especially in the first stint when there was a tire offset. So the team did a good job on pit lane, especially we were 5th in the pits. The strategy was called perfectly. So we finished 8th, which I think was kind of our pace all weekend. I don't think we were better than that. But so going into the weekend, there was a lot of conversation that we've had on this podcast. Nathan Brown put out an article that referenced this podcast, which is totally fine. And I stand by everything that we said, and I love Nathan, and that's fine. There was a lot of comments that I saw kind of come out of that, and it was referencing kind of my quote post Long Beach of how like I don't like this style of IndyCar racing, and my take on why there hasn't been any yellows is because the street course tire in particular you can't push on the red,
you can't hustle it. Yeah,
you can't hustle it, so everyone's kind of driving to a tire target, lap time target, and so you're kind of at 85% of the capacity of the car, and when you're that far under the limit, like you're not taking risks and it's easy to not crash, right? Going into Barber, I was really expecting, because ultimately the tires remained unchanged from the alternate standpoint. The primary was actually more robust than it had been in years past. And this has always been an alternate race. For the most part, there's negative deg on the reds. Now with the hybrid, there was some deg, but it was still without a doubt the preferred tire. But the point is, everyone was going to go into this race as a 3-stop, no fuel save, and because the red tire was as strong as it is, and because the primary was actually even stronger, not from a performance standpoint, but from a durability standpoint, it was going to be a flat-out race. Everyone was going to be 100% the entire day, and I was like, there are for sure going to be yellows because it's a flat-out 3-stopper, and people were just going to hammer. And there was no yellows. So
no yellows.
My whole point and my assumption of why there was no yellows, which I thought was based on pretty good logic and facts, turned out to be completely wrong. I don't know what it is, James. I don't know why we didn't have a yellow in Barber. I don't know why there is the field. The field's always been talented. There are still some guys in the field, I think, that are like, I don't know. I don't know why it's different. What is your opinion? Like, I'm perplexed by it.
Dude, we sat in the car for an hour and talked about this.
No, I know, but you have to tell the listeners.
Yes,
like, I don't know.
We got into the car and just kind of looked at each other. We're like, what, man? Like, what is happening right now? It's, the one person I heard say, oh, well, the cars are too hard to follow now, so you're not as close to passing. And
they're always hard to follow.
I don't think it's any different. And
there was still like some lunges, like,
dude, at a race like Barber, where, and we'll kind of get into like the race itself, but there was a lot of ebbing and flowing because the blacks were not as good as the reds, and so at some point you came out on blacks and people were getting passed and people were passing people. Like there was on track action.
Not everyone was on the same strategy, right? So there was
Right.
exchanges and
and the pit windows were nice and big, so it was always happening throughout. Like it was, and we had incidents in practice. We had guys going off. Look, we had Ferrucci have a massive save out of 3 that could have very easily been a yellow. We had Foster go off in 17. That was so nearly a yellow. But yeah, man, you guys are just driving good. Can you stop it? I don't think it's that either. I mean, I'm perplexed. I don't know. So it was the last time we had 3 consecutive green races was 1986. And if we want to be like weird about it, we've had 3.95 consecutive races because it was the first 5 laps of St. Pete, first 6 laps of St. Pete were yellow, and we've been green since. It's been 339 consecutive green flag laps. I don't know. Look, we're going to Indy GP next. Turn 1, turn 7. Something's happening. Something has to happen. It's just like a law of averages.
Something will definitely happen in the 500.
The 500 is good. Dude, you say that.
Could you imagine?
Do you remember like 2018 or something? We went like 152 laps before the first caution. You remember that?
Until frickin' Bourdais boned my chances of winning. It was 2019.
2019?
Yeah, because
Simon
kept leading, and like he wasn't gonna have any
burning
fuel.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, you're so hosed, and then he got that yellow. Anyways, so it's I stand by what I said. I just was wrong. Like I don't know why this is happening. I don't think that Barber was a bad race. Like I think that it was actually a good race. I don't think it needed yellows to be a good race. I think you take Pillow out of the conversation and it was a great race.
Right.
What he's doing right now is crazy, but I think the racing was good. Like it's a high speed road course with a hybrid that's heavy and we all know that, but you could still follow and you could still pass people in pretty much every corner. So like, I thought it was very raceable. And for me, that came because you're kind of like, you have tires that you can actually drive. So I don't know. That's my
I don't think that your opinion on street courses is inaccurate because there were enough guys that dropped a wheel that had that been in a street course, you'd be in the wall and that'd be a yellow, right? So when you can push that hard, those things are going to happen. We just happen to have a green race. It happens here. We've had it at Mid-Ohio. We've had it at other road courses. It's not a thing that's completely unheard of. The race itself, yes. Here's what I loved about this race. If there wasn't a yellow off the start, no one was even contemplating a 2-stopper, right? Yep. So everyone was going to be pushing the whole day, which is the best. It's what drivers love. It's what fans love. It makes good racing and it's fun. 3 things. The second thing was that the difference between the hard and the soft was pretty big.
Massive.
And at some point you had to swallow the pill that was the hard tire and figure out when you were doing that. And it wasn't like super obvious what the answer was. So bunch of different stints where people used the hard. So that mixes it up. Love that. And the pit windows were big. It wasn't like it was a 3-stopper with 2-lap windows. So everything, all the action happened. If you have an all green race, the only thing that saves it is big pit windows. Because if everyone's pitting within the same 2 laps, you have 4 laps of crazy action and then 25 laps of follow the leader, right? We did not have that. We had 13-lap windows, and so guys were pitting early, and how did the overcut versus the undercut, and the blends and the out laps. Like we had some really good racing, not for the lead, granted, fine, but
that's not IndyCar's fault. That's Alex.
That's nobody's fault. That's Alex's fault. Yeah, or is it the rest of your guys' fault for not stepping the up,
dude? Yes, I came into the trailer, and I was talking to Ed and Matt and Christian, and I was like, man, we all suck. Like this is getting embarrassing. Like we are all not talented because this is absurd what he's doing to all of us. It makes us look like freaking clowns.
He's the Max Verstappen of IndyCar. But he's just also in a good car.
I really hope so because like I hope he's not like the freaking Alex Albon of IndyCar because that would suck.
I have two follow-ups. Just one, because I know, Alex, you wouldn't be able to contribute on this. I thought Fox did a great job on the broadcast of focusing on the mid-pack battles. And because if you were
That's
just
all there
watching the
was.
front, yeah, but I'm saying if you were just watching the front, there could have been an argument that was a pretty boring race. You guys kept it entertaining by showing and highlighting a lot of that. So I thought, kudos to you guys. You made it entertaining to watch.
Thank you.
The other point I'll bring up is there's a lot of chatter online about would it be good for the series if Palou were to hypothetically go to F1 and go? And I just wanted to hear your guys' opinion on that, because it's like,
No.
would it be good to get rid of the best guy? Would it make it more entertaining? But then what does that say? Okay, that was my opinion, but I just want to hear what you guys thought.
Anytime someone dominates in F1, they all get, bitchy about it and whatever, but it's just part of the sport, man. Like Jimmy Johnson dominated NASCAR for 5 straight years, and NASCAR wasn't going to benefit from losing him. So no, I don't think. Yes, I see the theory in that, but I don't think in practice that actually works or makes any sense. Thank you for the kind words about the broadcast, because that one from our seat felt to me the whole weekend was the best weekend by far. And I've been saying this to you guys since St. Pete. We're just going to keep getting better and better. More and more stuff's going to come in, and I thought everybody did a great job. Definitely, the focus on the battles on track was great. Our director Mitch he came in here knowing nothing about motorsports, did an incredible amount of research in the off season, and has really, really started to figure out how to cut these races. And it was awesome. We had stuff that was working for the first time. Like we had our deltas in qualifying, which was great. That's been something we've been working very hard at getting. I know it seems like it's something we should have been able to have from the beginning. I don't want to talk about it. Doesn't matter. It's here now. And we've just got more stuff coming. That's going to be great. So yeah, it's a fun weekend. It's a fun race to call, because we had some challenges in not having yellows and able to set stuff up. We still had to fit in all the things that you have to fit in a broadcast from a sales standpoint without any yellows, which is tough to do when you've got a race that's actually pretty good happening. So I thought everybody did a great job, and it's just kind of great to see the whole team, leveling up every weekend. And it's just getting me even more excited for the 500. I've also been, part of some of the meetings about some of the stuff that's coming for the 500. There's some fun coming. I think it's going to be cool.
Anything you can preview, or just all surprises?
I cannot. I'll surprise.
So before the 500, we've got the Indy GP, which, thank God we only do it once these days.
Yes. To do it 4 times a year.
Yeah. And there's something new coming. So in lieu of all of these conversations, whether people are vocal about it like us or not, it's been the common consensus that prior to Barber, the first 3 races weren't exactly stellar from an entertainment standpoint. And so there's a new rule coming for the GP. And I would like your opinion on it, James, because while I commend IndyCar for trying something, I don't know that it's the solution. But again, they're being proactive, and they're not waiting until 2026, to do something. They're doing it in race 5. So what's happening is the tire rules in IndyCar have forever been you have to run one set of a new version of each tire in the race, and then whatever you do after that is kind of up to you. Well, now
technically the rule doesn't say that the hards have to be new, but
okay,
the reds have to be new.
Whatever. So you have to run a set of new alternates, and then obviously a set of.
Someone was going to call us out on it. I had to say it. Someone was going to call it.
I actually didn't know that. So you learn something new every day, guys. Hey,
every day.
10 a.m. on a Monday morning. I already got it in for the week.
10 years into your career, yeah.
Relax, 9. So for Indy GP, they are mandating, because it's a 3-stop race anyways, they're mandating that we need to run 2 sets of alternates and 2 sets of primes, which means that everyone's ultimately going to be on the same tire strategy. It does not mean everyone's going to be on the same tire at the same time, but everyone's going to be on the same tire strategy. So what are our thoughts on this? Do we think this is going to move the needle? Because in some ways it's okay, it's putting everyone on the same strategy. But in other ways it's well, for sure no one's going to save anymore, because you have everyone is going to be on a 3-stop, and everyone has to do that, and everyone has to hammer to the end. So I don't know.
I assume you're asking my opinion, right?
I'm sure not.
So few thoughts. I don't know which are okay. I'll start on the last one. So, Indy GP is a great example because that's one where historically there's been a favored tire, but the odd car has actually been an outlier.
Just one of them.
I guess. Okay. All right. Fine.
Just one of them.
I'll throw that point out because we've already had this discussion. We won't get into that. We won't waste the time. Okay. I guess okay. So
yeah.
Well,
that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. It's very nuanced, right? Because with the way the tire rules are now in terms of having 5 sets of alternates and 5 sets of primaries, it does make this a little bit more plausible. But let's say there's a situation like, have they announced this is going to be for the rest of the year, or is this they're trying it today?
They're trying it this weekend. Yes.
Okay. So I do think it works here better than maybe anywhere else. So if you're going to try something, this is probably the place to do it. Because, for example, if you tried to do it on a street course, right, with how bad the alternate was, it would be a disaster, right? If one of the tires,
it would just become a 4-stop.
Yeah, but it would be a farcical one because you'd be doing 2 laps on one set of tires, pitting, 2 laps on another set of tires, pitting, and then driving. Like it would be
to a fuel number. Yeah,
dude, it would be farcical. It would be terrible. Here, the hards are not that bad. They're not as good as the softs, so you're going to want to run the softs more. But having to do 2, yeah, okay, fine. I don't think that I don't count thermal because it's such an outlier of a track. It's such a unique place. So we've had 2 street circuits where we know there's an issue with we've had 2 street tracks where we know the tires behave a certain way that I think still plays perfectly into your theory on why street races have gone caution free. I don't think that's inaccurate, right? So I don't know. It's, that's a kind of different issue.
It's a different box.
Right. Sure. Thermal is its own unique surface and has its own challenges, whatever. So it's almost like, and I know this decision was not being made just based on Barber, it was made before the weekend, but we now have had a race at Barber, which was a good race, which the tires were great and you could push hard on them the whole time. And we didn't have a caution, fine, but that's happened before at Barber. I guess what I'm getting at is I think that, in my opinion, we do not have enough data points to really decide, oh my God, we have an issue here. Let's change a fundamental rule. That said, I do agree with you that I like the fact that they're thinking and they're willing to try things. In my opinion, it's too early to try, but I'm also very, very open and happy to be proven very wrong. Because I'm not like, I don't feel super strongly about this particular format one way or the other. I never like when you take decision making away from teams, when it gives teams less freedom to decide what to do. That, to me, I don't love that. But if it works, I'm happy for it. The bigger thing for me is I think it's almost too early to make that call. But
yep, I hear you.
We'll see.
The one thing that also is a little bit of a wrinkle in it, and we'll end on this, is with this new rule, there is no requirement to run new reds. So you can run, your red requirement can be met on used tires. So while...
So sorry. So the way the rules have been, one set of sticker reds is saved until the race. You are not allowed to use them until the race.
Correct.
Are you now saying that that 5th set is free to use at any point in the weekend?
Yes, there are no tire rule requirements.
Okay, so that's going to make it qualifying interesting too.
Not really, because
you could throw 2 sets in the Fast 6 if you wanted.
You could, but already because of the extra alternates this year, you're running news in the Fast 6. So it's
but I'm saying you could do 2 if you really would. If the used reds were good enough, which you don't know until warm up.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah. But I just think it is interesting because there is the potential that cars, I guess to your point, there is the potential the cars in the Fast 6 will have no new reds, and there is a potential that the car in 13th will have 2 sets of new reds. So there's a bigger discrepancy potential than there has been in the past. Again, the used red is a pretty good tire at Indy GP, so I don't think it's like a game changer, but it is something to consider. So anyways, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. As we both said, good that IndyCar is thinking. I agree with you completely. I don't know that this is maybe the time to experiment with it in terms of the sample size of what we've already seen. But it is what it is, same for everyone. It's certainly not going to make anything worse.
No.
So tune in to see how it checks out or works out, I should say, because it should be, there will be different approaches to how people go about and handle this rule. And it should make for an exciting race for 2nd through 27th.
It sure will.
It sure will.
This has been Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Off Track is part of the SiriusXM Sports Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please give a 5-star rating and leave a review. Subscribe today wherever you stream your podcasts. We are at Ask Off Track on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Hinchtown and at Alexander Rossi. If you want to follow Tim, though we have no idea why you would, he's at the Tim Durham on Twitter. Find us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for exclusive video content. Off Track is produced by Tim Durham, and by that we mean Tim.